There's this trending issue that you made these statements concerning the FC minister that prior to the election, that, AMAC is not Obiakpo, he cannot come and write results in Abuja. And they've been, coming after you. So what do you say to that?
First of all, AMAC, Obiakpo, they are not the same thing. They are two different things, But aside from that, AMAC truly is not Obiakpo, because we can also see. And but Mr. Wale, aside the banter, the issue is more serious than that. AMAC is the #1 local council, is home to the president and everything that Nigeria can be. And to see what happened, the joke is not on me. The joke is on the minister and those agents who have been paid to come strolling on my timeline. Because if I say, for example, that, Mr. Wale, you cannot steal this microphone, the whole world is watching, and then this microphone disappeared, the joke is not on me. They are saying to the minister that he is an election rigger. They are saying to Wike that that he wrote results, and it is sad. That is what they are saying. So on one part, the young people who should stand with me against the minister are making a jest of me. The minister who should respond to them, I don't know what he's doing. But again, this is what the value system of Nigeria is, and it breaks my heart.
This is Naija Unfiltered on SYMFONI TV. My name is Olawale Oluwade, and my guest today is Dr. Moses Paul, popularly known as Dr. Mo, environmentalist, politician, and incidentally, the ADC candidate in the February FCT council election, AMAC council in Abuja. Dr. Mo, nice to have you on the show.
Same here, sir.
You're welcome.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, let's get right into our conversation. Against all the odds, your party, African Democratic Congress, held its convention. INEC refusing to monitor your activities against the clearly spelled out legal requirements. The convention was held, and in all appearance, it seemed to be quite successful. Walk us through this entire process before yesterday, what you had to go through, and all of that. Walk us through it.
I mean, it's absolutely and aptly observed. Was a moment, was a statement in history, that defied all odds, institutional, deliberate attempt, to silence the opposition, in all kinds of ways that, are unimaginable. But again, it's also important that I'm the one even making this report, because I remember vividly, I wrote seeking for the approval for the old parade ground during the last election. And the director of the FCT told my team clearly, the minister is not going to even attend to, once you see Dr. Mo's name, he's dead on arrival. And of course, he was dead on arrival. So it's not just, this is not the first time we're seeing this. And I remember vividly when we were organizing for the entry of Senator Eriti into the ADC. We had booked and paid. I did the payment for City Park, and just a few hours before that, event, they called, and of course from the office of the minister, you guys come and take your money to not be allowed. I don't want my facility demolished. So there are sequences to this. This is how far we have come as a nation. I mean, it's almost unbelievable that we're having this conversation. Moving from public facilities to now private facilities. How low can we go? How bad can it get? But against all odds, the ADC made a statement, yesterday, because it wasn't just a gathering of ADC as a political party. It's a defining moment. It's a statement by the suppressed Nigerian people, by those who, the descendant voices, is Nigerians who are suffering, What the bold event, is a statement to say that whatever you do, we're going to make it happen. So it was, hope was rekindled. I came into the scenario. I couldn't even everywhere, and people were confusing because I didn't even know that I'd become this popular, The whole place was jubilation. People were happy. The whole place was covered with people from Lagos, Maiduguri, Katsina, Kaduna, or everywhere, all around the country. People gathered in their numbers, for nearly 24 hours unflinched. It shows a resilience, a resolve of a people who are determined against all odds to ensure that we have democracy. And of course you have all the leaders, and just looking back, it's crazy because at the last election, Alhaji Atiku Abubakar was in a different party, Mr. Peter Obi was in a different party, Dr. Abi Musa Kongos was in a different party, and of course even Rotimi Amechi was in a different party. But you can see that all of them have galvanized together right in that hall. People, activists, politicians, downtrodden, everybody, they were all gathered there, throughout. So, and you can see the affirmation. Over 3,000 delegates affirmed the David Marks led, leadership, of the party. And that's a big and a bold statement. And also the endorsement of the updated constitution and all the other elements that happened. I mean, it was big, and it shows for me clearly what it indicated is that the ADC as a political party has gone beyond agitation to organizing itself, and now it also shows that they are fully prepared and ready to face the 2027 general election. And of course, you can see the resolve of the masses. It's hunger versus the ruling party.
Don't let's run ahead of ourselves. It's still a long way before ADC can field a candidate in 2027. You still have a plethora of court cases. But let's stay on this. Nigerians are interested, as I am, and I'm sure you are too. This new dimension of not being able to get public venues, Eagle Square, Moshood Kashimawo Stadium, a few other places, were outrightly rejected.
Absolutely.
But the novel, angle this has taken that is really concerning is private properties, private sector doing business,
yes,
private ownership. Can you speak to this? What signal does this send to even international investors who might want to come to business in Nigeria, that if you are not in support of a ruling party, your business could be in jeopardy and all of those? Speak to this, Dr. Mo.
I'm actually afraid, not for the masses, for Nigerian as an estate, and also for the ruling party, for the Bola Ahmed Tinubu-led administration. I'm truly afraid because even because I was a young man in the university, when Abacha ruled as the head of state. The only thing left right now is for the opposition voices to start disappearing. We've never gotten to this level in the history of Nigeria, where boldly, the minister, because I saw this statement, Christian to him, that we are government, you are opposition, and we will take every loophole that we see. How low can we get to that point? You've gotten to the, this is worse than the military regime. You are reminding us of Adolf Hitler. You are reminding us of the worst of humanity. Because this is, it's almost unbelievable that we're having this conversation. To go into, you're threatening private citizens. This is the level it has gotten. But again, what it shows is clearly is that this current regime will not stay, because history has shown that the moment they get to this level of desperation, then it's game over. This is also the nuances. This is what I see with all of this, and that's what gives me a flicker of hope, because their desperation has come to high heavens, and they can only be changed at this point.
Now, David Mark, Atiku, these are party, your party bigwigs, Amechi, they all stood on the stage, and spoke, made various comments. In most of those comments, they directly indicted, INEC Chair, Professor Josh Amokwita, and many will say expectedly so, because in the view of many, he has become a direct threat, not just to elections, but to democracy surviving, in Nigeria. They said INEC chair, one of the most of the allegations, particularly Rotimi Amechi and even Atiku, is that it's being used, it has become an arm of, the ruling government and all of that, And also, you can see clearly the INEC chair, INEC as an institution, refusing to monitor your processes yesterday, which is a constitutional requirement. What do you say to this? How do you respond to this?
I mean, it's crazy. It's like, Mr. Wale, you come to a game of football and you are watching the referee wearing the jersey of your opponent. This is the scenario we have right now. So INEC is no longer independent. INEC is speaking for the ruling party and defending the ruling party. So where do we go from here? Because INEC is wearing the jersey of the government. It's really dangerous. And not just INEC. Even the judiciary is wearing the jersey of the ruling party. It is only in Nigeria that the judiciary normally is a woman, and she's blind to religion, blind to color, blind to tribe, and blind to anything. But in Nigeria, the judiciary's eyes is completely open. It's seeing. We're living at a very dangerous time in our nation's history where the law has become a tool of manipulation by the ruling party. The Independent Electoral Commission has become a tool of the ruling party. Where this happens in any nation, what we have is what you can see everybody is calling for. It's a one-party state, that we're asking for. And it's a complete removal of what we know as democracy.
INEC chair generally become controversial after elections. But this particular INEC chair has not even conducted any major general election. And is already being swallowed or consumed by huge controversy on his integrity, personal integrity now, not even the institution, himself. What does this say to you about? Because these tweets we're talking about, you would expect he passed through security checks and all of that. These were things that ought to have been flagged.
If you listen to even what I said, INEC today is an institution, is a partner of government. The legislature, as we have right now, is a rubber stamp. It is an arm of, it's like the other room of the presidency. And of course, the judiciary is completely gone. That is why this present government is the one that has this, whatever you do, they tell you, go to court. Go to court because court is in their pocket. INEC is in their pocket. The legislature is in their pocket. So I know it was said that it was a joke. That when President Bola Ahmed Tinubu was commissioning, he was commissioning when he was making a joke to Akpabio and telling him that he can commission him to, to deal with the opposition.
FRS, the NRS building, the new NRS building.
Even by joke, there are things you do not do because we are talking about Nigeria. Nigeria is not just a nation. It's the only nation in Africa that can be superpower. It's not something to make light or joke of. The things we're talking about are life and death. So to have the legislature, to have the because I can't even use the word independent because they are not the dependent, commission, and then you also have the judiciary. It's sometimes, we've gotten to this place in our nation's history where you can see I'm stuttering because I don't even know what to say. Like many have, said, you have 32 governors. You have INEC. You have the military. You have the police. You have all the security apparatus. You have the court system. And yet you want to kill opposition. And it should be in the interest of the government of the day that opposition should even be strengthened. I mean, we saw that even in the life of, may so rest in peace and continue to rest, President Musa Shehu Yaradua, where he spoke to INEC and instructed them that they must do the right thing. So we have seen precedents in the past. But where we are right now, we will read, our children will read today and they will never believe that today existed in Nigeria's history. That's where we are right now. We do not have institutions any independent institution right now as it stands right now. Everything is just an appendage of the current government. It's the saddest and the worst time to be alive in Nigeria.
Proposition. But then let me do a write down what you just said now, with this next question. The Nigerian Constitution clearly, prescribes that no known person who has a political preference for a party shall be appointed INEC chair. Who has publicly expressed support should be appointed, INEC chair. Why would the president deliberately appoint? Because with everything we're saying now, that's Freudian slip the president made when he said jokingly, because it was in a lighter moment, but then he slipped. And I'm sure wherever the president is now, he would regret that slip.
Absolutely.
To say, I will send you to them to go and, scatter them. Is that the intention of the president appointing President Joe to go to INEC and then make sure nothing happens?
I mean, it's like what people are talking online. A Reno Mockery is appointed and sent to Mexico. These things it's crazy. And I will say this to Mr. President. You are not the governor of Lagos State. You are not Bola Ahmed Tinubu. You are president. You are the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. What that means is that your word is law. Whatever you say is law. That office is not an office for joke or banter. It is something to be feared, because whatever you say stays for generation. That's maybe, Mr. Wale, maybe I'm living maybe something is wrong with me as a person, because I from the things we are saying, from the nominating even the former INEC chair as part of the it's just like the more you can create anarchy and create criminality and do bad things against the will of the people, that's when you become a favorite of this particular regime. I'm trying to understand myself, because the certain things are not connecting, and of course that's also something that we should be dealt with. So like we both are saying is like the Constitution will say something, but then the present government of the day will go against it. That's an enemy of state. It doesn't matter whether you are chairman, whether you are a governor, or you are a minister, or you are a president. If you go against the Constitution of Nigeria, you are an enemy of Nigeria. And this is what we are seeing. I mean, I can't see. This interview is one of the most difficult one for me, because I don't know how to behave or react to these things that we're discussing. In the first place, somebody like Amupiton should not have been. There should be a committee, there are procedural sequence to ensuring that we have an INEC chair that is independent. It's clearly in the Constitution. And for you, Professor, when you err, I mean, when are we going to get to that place where people will just leave office for what is, it's like, I've been cut pants down. Let me just give way for what is true and what is right. I don't know where we're going to get there. Changing this government is the least of the issue. As it stands right now, the easiest government to remove out of power is actually the present government that we have, because poverty has been weaponized, hunger has been weaponized. If you go, except you are not being true or real to yourself, you have all the governors are on one side. So like I say, it's even good. And for those watching this interview, those who want to move, please quickly move, so that, like they say, we don't want the thunder to be confused. We need the thunder to be balanced, so that you would strike, properly, so that we know that you guys are on one side and we're on this side, because and I'm speaking in the context of these values that we're talking about, so that we're not confused, because in my own election, I saw people that worked for me, with me, and also working for the opposition. And this is what this current regime is creating, so that people don't know the difference between what is good and what is bad. It's the biggest danger any society, any nation can ever face. It cannot be badder than this.
Let's go to insecurity. In the Northwest alone, in the last few days, we've lost about 90 persons in the last few days, Northwest of Nigeria. We had 49 villagers were massacred in Kebbi, Kwara and Plateau State. In Sokoto State, there's a place called Gobi. They came and killed the emir of Gobir.
Yeah.
And the villagers, the people of Gobir fled. Because if the head is gone, who will protect them? So they fled. 5 worshippers slaughtered inside the church on Easter Sunday in Kaduna, with 35 abducted. Nigeria is now the 4th most terrorized country on the Global Terrorism Index, rating. So has the government abandoned the people to themselves? Let's stop this drama of insecurity. What do you think, Dr. Mo?
It's unbelievable. By the time they made the analysis of the amount of people, the amount of money, the resources just to save one man. And here we are. Nigerian generals are dying because their ammunition, their vehicles, So if you're talking about, like we say, you're talking about just worshippers, they've made light of the average life of it. They don't mean anything anymore. Nigerians just die every day. In fact, for over a decade or two now, when you say 5 Nigerians are dead or 20 or 50, it's like, guys, is it that one that you are worrying about? Because in Benue, about 250 people, 500 people in Agatu were slaughtered. When 1,000 Nigerians massacred, then maybe civil society group will come out in 1 or 2 places, and after 2-3 days, then we go back again. This is the worth of the life of Nigeria. And this is general. This has nothing to do with whether they are just worshippers or they are street people or they are generals in the Nigerian army. Where we are right now is a complete abdication. It's almost as though we have no government, because from the definition and the opening phrase of our constitution, governance and government is supposed to do basic 2 things: to protect the property and life of the citizens. So where this fails, there's no governance. In Nigeria today, by the indices, when I look at the cycle of things, we're not ready yet. The Nigerian people. And again, you see, while I say this, because of what I know and the places I've been, when you have been so beaten to the point where you are now held captive, you can't save yourself. Nigerians are in a place where, they need to be saved. This is where we are. I spoke in the conference where I was saying that Benue State is a captured territory. Any place in Nigeria where you can go and kill 500, 200 people and nothing happens is a conquered territory. Nigeria in that context is a conquered territory, because the fact that nobody will be held accountable, the fact that nothing is going to happen, we're already conquered, we're already state captured, and this is why you see that we return back to the religious houses. We have to pray, we have to fast, until the day where Nigerians will wake up beyond political parties, beyond religious affiliations, beyond class, beyond any affiliation, and say it is about the Nigerian blood and soldiers. You are my brother, regardless of the name you bear, regardless of what religion you practice. That's the pain you feel is the same pain I feel, and Nigerians will lock hand in hand, just like what happened with Ahmadu Bello, Nnamdi Azikiwe, Awolowo. They came together. They could see clearly who their enemies were, the colonialists. These were different people from different backgrounds. Nigerians need to come together and see beyond the political class, beyond religion, beyond all of these parochial tendencies and tools that are used, and lock hands together and say it's our nation's first. The day that happens, then we will not be discussing this, forgive the use of the word, Mr. Wale, this nonsense. Nonsense, because the life of Nigerians have become nonsense.
Dr. Mo, I'm sure you see videos on social media of the military-grade weapons or armory of these terrorists and bandits and kidnappers, sometimes compared to ours.
No, they're always sophisticated.
In fact, now we hear and we've seen these bandits and terrorists have, aircraft, what's it called? Weapons to bring down aircrafts. They can shoot down aircraft. They have drones now. Compared to ours that are still going around with AK-47s our soldiers essentially are still carrying AK-47s. What has gone on to the collapse of, our military, Dr. Mo?
Growing up, I remember I had a lecture in Sierra Leone, and when we finished the lecture, they took me out to work, and the longest built road is almost like, from the city gate to the airport. You see that stretch, such a beautiful road. It was named after Abuja. And you can imagine what I felt. I'm like, why would you people be naming your best road after a dictator, in quotes, in Nigeria? And the story changed. It wasn't funny. Because they said to me, it was during Abuja that, Nigerian soldiers particularly delivered us from our anarchy. And now, Dr. Mo, you be very careful what you say about those names, the environment changed, and so you're talking about Nigerian soldiers, the most feared growing up. These are the most feared. They brought salvation to several African countries. It's the same people we're talking about now that are being run down by ragtag, untrained people that don't even wear slippers. Mr. Wale, like me, like you, I'm also asking you, how have we come to this place? What happened to Nigeria? Like our soldiers, like our intellectuals, like our designers, we're all over the world. In NASA, go to the agri community, go to the design world where cars are being made. We have Nigerians all over the world, leading tech, leading the banking industry, leading revolutions across the globe. But you come back home, the same soldiers that held sway, that were feared and respected, today we are discussing them as though we're discussing some children at the backyard who are playing. I don't know how we got here, but again, everything rises and falls on leadership. I ran for local government because I know that at the end of the day, what we're discussing is at
the grassroots.
Not because I'm not qualified or more qualified than anybody who has been president of Nigeria, but I understand that the responsibility and accountability is at that level. But again, these people up there will rig elections for the people down there. So what you're seeing up there is a replication of what you have down here. Mr. Wale, this is where we are at in Nigeria today. And it's
No, Dr. Mo, are you blaming the people for the irresponsible behavior of their senators and governors?
They're one and the same at the end of the day. The local government chairman, the state governors, they are not different from, so yeah, the reason why we keep putting a lot of pressure on the president is because at the end of the day, the box stops with the president. But I'm giving you a clear example to see how it's a replication. Somebody like myself will not be wanted to be, because you know that as a local government chairman, the security will be restored. You know that misbehavior in terms of accountability, you will see transparency. So what you have up there is what is replicated down here. So I'm connecting the dot to show you that what we are seeing is the same government. The local, state, and federal are the same. Worst case is that now we have INEC, judiciary, and all. They are all the same. It's just one people. So we have zero accountability, zero transparency, zero, responsibility. This is what we have across all the status of Nigeria. Because if what is happening in just one location, then you can say, oh, there is an exception. There is no exception. It's happening in the West, it's happening in the East, it's happening in the North, it's happening everywhere.
Is it not wrong for us to be blaming the people who are being left to the mercies of terrorists and kidnappers for the failure of political leadership?
No, I think it's also connected because during my elections, I saw how some of the people, not all, it was a few of the people that worked for me, took money, and worked for the people. So they are also responsible. We must deal with leadership as we deal with followership, because at the end of the day, Mr. Wale, people are deserving of the kinds of leaders they have, and there's a connection to it. And that's why for me is to continue to fight, to continue to win people over a day at a time where the value system is concerned, because we must have people that will say, I will not bow to this regardless of what happens. But what is even more critical with what we're discussing is the fact that you see this present regime. It's dangerous because they are using the law as a tool for manipulation. They are using the law. I don't know how best to put it, but it's like today, in the Nigerian constitution, certificate forgery is criminality, is criminal, to many years, 14 years, But today, in the Electoral Act, there is no even grounds to sue anybody who forged his or her.
2026 Electoral Act as amended, you mean?
Yes, as amended. So when a government now begins to use the law as a tool, at that point, we have reached ground zero. And that's why even credible people from local government levels up, can, even if the people at the grassroots want somebody, or they voted for somebody, it can be manipulated, and this is what you see. And I'm saying that because the question you ask is that, why are these people down here not doing it? Because the people up there have replicated the people they have. So here we are, Mr. Wale. We know the people, some of the people who are ambassadors today in Nigeria. You saw what Germany said even to my bond. Yes, you can imagine a country reminding us of a person that we put there. So this is the level we have gotten to. It's a replication of what we have at the top. That's what we have down there. So we have all become irresponsible. We have all become a people without account. Because if the buck stops with Mr. President, and where, for example, a general dies and you have people within the ranks are sacked, I will keep sacking people every week. This nonsense will stop. The local government will behave the same. The state government will behave the same.
You touched on something very critical earlier, which is, and I was trying to, that the people, are somehow complicit in their misfortune, because when time comes to do the right thing, they still aid and abet some of these irresponsible. And that brings me back to this issue of Nafiu Balagombe and all of that, because somebody resigned. You sat down at the convention where they knew the old one that it belonged to was dissolved, and the new one was ratified. Then suddenly you wake up after 1.5 months to say, no, it is not so, whereas there are evidences. But then, look at what's going on in Adamawa now. Some guy came up and said, Babachi Alawa and Atiku, they are suspending them and all. How is it so easy for people to be compromised like that? Dr. Mo, why is it so easy to destroy a party? For what exactly? I don't understand.
When poverty is weaponized, and when the value system of a people are completely broken down, Mr. Wale, it's easy to do anything. The examples you gave. When somebody who has not even seen 10 million in his life just receive a lot of 2 billion, it's madness. This is what is going on in our country today. So, and because the hunger is real, the people that are dying, the statistics, they are not rhetoric. These are real people. And when I travel across the world in different states and places, and when I meet people who fled from Southern Kaduna in America, for example, well, there is nothing in this life that will bring them back to Nigeria. And part of the people that we've helped, if you look at the president of China or some of the people in Singapore and so many other places who their countries sent out to go and school, they went on scholarship and all of that. They can't even wait. After receiving education, they take the money, they take the technology, and they run back to their country. But in Nigeria, most of the people who live in Nigeria, they are jackpine because of hunger. They are jackpine because of unemployment. You jackpine because your father, your mother were brutalized and killed. How do you think you see Nigeria? You never want to come back, even if you make all the money. I've met billionaires in dollars that own hospitals and all kinds of things in America, begging and waiting for a day we will have a sensible government. Nigeria will not need to borrow any money. And I can tell you, at least I've had the opportunity to have traveled, Mr. Peter Obi, across the world. And I can tell you one thing. Should somebody like Mr. Peter Obi becomes president, I'll tell you what will happen. And I put it just averagely. There are more than 10,000 Nigerians, billionaires, who will move into the country. We're not going to borrow money from anybody. There are Nigerians all over the world. So this is what we are dealing with, and this is what makes the story of Nigeria very sad.
So these current NSA service chiefs, they've outlived their usefulness. Yes or no?
1 million, yes.
Okay. Thank you for that. Dr. Mo, right now, rate the president's performance. 1 to 5, 5 being the highest, excellence, 1 being poor, woeful. Rate the president.
I mean, the report card is there. If you say I will provide it,
you're an intellectual.
You say you provide electricity, yes, and you do not. No, I'm an intellectual, but I want to talk to the street people.
Yeah, practicals.
Yes, you say you provide electricity. And in fact, you said, if I don't, do not vote for me. And you have shown clearly, in fact, I don't know the current something, but I know it even dropped. So this is F9.
F9.
F9 is flat F9. But it's true. I mean, look at that. Insecurity today is F9. The economy is F9. The light situation is F9. So I'm trying hard to even find something that I can use to even make an excuse for this present regime. What even makes it worse is, you see the ambassadorial list. Then you look at INEC. Then you look at the judicial system, where now, I mean, I don't know how to say this, that certificate forgery is not, and you guess, now, to make matters worse, even what I'm discussing right now, some people are out there insulting me, and insulting you, and insulting us for even having this conversation. That is even worse than the failure. So it's not even about just F9. It's the fact that there are people who are paid, and there are those who even love the F9. It's almost like they say, there are, whether husband or wife, there are people that like them they love to be beaten. So if you don't beat them, so this is the scenario that we have right now. There are people who love failure, because should Nigeria work, they know that they will not be well. If Nigeria is working, I know governors in this place that are not worthy of being my driver. But they are governors of state. People who, their original job at best, they should be gate men. Not because the job of a gate man is not important. But you cannot be a governor because it's about policy, it's about vision, it's about somebody who does not understand what I'm talking about should not be a governor. But when you have a Nigeria that is not working, then you have people who should be somewhere, in the helm of affairs and leading it. And by the way, this, the conversation we had is in context when I say political leadership, because it is President Bola Ahmed Tinubu that appointed a professor. So if the intellectuals will rise up and take their place, we should have an intellectual president.
Interesting. Dr. Mo, if by the time 2027 arrives, Tinubu is still the president, of course, that's after the election. Tinubu is still the president, and INEC has done whatever it is they want to do. Opposition is suppressed, and everything you have described there. If they are successful, how far is the opposition willing to go to make sure the APC, INEC do not compromise the electoral process? How far is your party willing to go, and other opposition parties?
Based on what happened,
in the ambit of the law.
The law. Again, that has become a context now, because when the government of the day is breaking the law and shifting the goalposts, I don't know if you listened to what Professor Yemi Osibanjo, the former vice president, said, where he said, because he's a professor of law. Yes, when you break the law, you're actually calling, you that broke the law, you are calling for civil disobedience, because you cannot, and I don't know why I keep making that, certificate forgery will always be forgery. If you rig election, you are a criminal. It doesn't matter what happens. And you cannot rig election and then stand and be boasting. What will happen is that you are activating the people to go against you, So should everything status quo remain, I know from what happened in the convention yesterday, I can tell you that the opposition are more than determined, to come together. And I'm happy about it somewhat because now even their selfish individual interests are beginning to give way. I pray that it will totally give way, because I remember vividly, if you remember, when we had about 7 people, this was in MPN, in the 80s, where you have people like Chiroma, you have people like Malam Aminu Kano, you have this, yes, and all those. They were impeccable Nigerian leaders who are worthy of holding their own, grounds anywhere. What the party leadership did in that case is that they went out completely and brought a man that was not even interested.
We've seen all sorts of things.
Okay. No, but I think, but again, they brought him, and then he was able to. But that's because the party were able, because you're asking me how far the opposition are willing to go. I want them to go that far, to the point where their individual ambition will go down completely, so that we can have a new Nigeria. I'm seeing the tendencies, but I'm also watching because I'm not fully certified yet. But from what happened yesterday, I think they're on the path to ensuring that happens.
In 1 minute, if Mr. Peter does not get a ticket, the obedience, are they going to pull out of the ADC coalition? 1 minute.
When we get to the bridge, we'll cross that.
No, you've been very upfront, so be upfront on this one.
Mr. Peter Obi has said clearly that if it is transparent and accountable, whoever emerges, he will support the person. So I think so.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Let's finish up with this, your AMAC experience, baptism of fire, if I may use the word. So, what happened? If you actually won, why didn't you come out to tell the public, I won, this and that happened? Rather, you disappeared, like I said. Are you afraid? Is it that you're afraid of FCT Mr. Wike? You don't want to, offend him and all of that?
Mr. Wike is actually, I drive around and I see what he's doing, and I can tell you, commendable. And I respect him because, he's, how do I put it? He's in his 50s, just a little. The age gap is not that much. I respect him as a minister. I respect him as somebody who is in government. I respect him, his portfolio and what he is. But for what is going on, I'm not afraid of anybody. We've had conversations. I'm not afraid of Bola Ahmed Tinubu, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. I'm not afraid of Barrister. I'm not afraid of any human being. As a matter of fact, I can tell you, I've carried millions into the woods to go and rescue people who have been kidnapped. So I'm not one of those Nigerians. I'm young and brutal. And I think, I'm sure the video got to him when I said he could not rewrite, the result in AMAC. And I'm being hunted, by all these paid agents. Anytime you put anything on, even with this interview, they are going to come on me and all of that, I went back because I know that I won the election, and I couldn't speak about it because we are maybe this is the first time I'll be saying it publicly, because I'm in court.
Oh, you're litigating the outcome?
Yes, and I know that a lot of people will be disappointed because they begged me, they say, Mo, just let this thing go, just don't worry yourself. After all, they can call you and reward you and all of that. So even with this statement I'm making, a few people will be disappointed. But Mr. Wale, my allegiance, if 10,000 people, if 20,000 people come out, Musa in Gwagwa died defending my vote. I have people, mothers, grandmothers who have been crying since this election. I've been going around. I've done 3 thank you events. The last one was in the Merit House. People showed up in their numbers. I'm feeding people just to thank them for coming out, for believing again, for trusting again. Against all odds, the intimidation. Some of our people were being taken by police. A curfew imposed the day before election. People could not cross and all kinds of things, and the money, politics, and everything that happens. For those who stood, for INEC to even say I got over 12,000. Just imagine 12,000. That's their declaration. That's not the number of people that voted for me. To even admit that 12,000 in Abuja municipality come out. I mean, just thinking about that alone. I can't fail. I can't fail. So for that, I will take it to the end, regardless of what happens.
Then the votes you got, INEC said you scored was 12,000 votes.
Plus, yes.
12,000 plus. As against, what was the winner?
40,000.
40,000, okay. But you think you got more than that?
Absolutely.
You have your own results?
Absolutely.
From ECTA and all of that?
Absolutely.
You have that, and that's why
we can see the mutilation. I mean, in a place where you have the total accredited voters about maybe 200, and then you have people voting, and then at the end of the day, you have APC, you have 1,200 and something, and we have a lot like that. So you have mutilation. The results were changed between polling units and the collation centers, all kinds of.
So, what are your basic grounds for litigation? Your basic grounds that you're contesting?
Unfortunately, I can't talk about those details.
Okay, the matter is in court.
Yes.
Okay, let's leave that. Anyway, there's this trending issue that you made these statements concerning the FC minister that prior to the election, that AMAC is not Obiakpo, he cannot come and write results in Abuja, and they've been, coming after you. So, what do you say to that?
First of all, AMAC, Obiakpo, they are not the same thing. They are two different things, But aside from that, AMAC truly is not Obiakpo, because we can also see. And but Mr. Wale, aside the banter, the issue is more serious than that. AMAC is the #1 local council. It's home to the president and everything that Nigeria can be. And to see what happened, the joke is not on me. The joke is on the minister and those agents who have been paid to come strolling on my timeline. Because if I say, for example, that, Mr. Wale, you cannot steal this microphone, the whole world is watching, and then this microphone disappeared, the joke is not on me. They are saying to the minister that he is an election rigger. They are saying to Wike that that he wrote results. And it is sad. That is what they are saying. So on one part, the young people who should stand with me against the minister are making a jest of me. The minister who should respond to them, I don't know what he's doing. But again, this is what the value system of Nigeria is, and it breaks my heart.